Hi boys and girls, Miss Quinnell here. Today we're going to continue with our how-to writing. This part we're doing part 3, the writing steps. And later on we're going to talk about revising our writing as well. Before we get started, I just want to make it clear that this writing isn't meant to happen all at once, all in one day. I would encourage you to maybe watch the video today, start writing the steps tomorrow, maybe take a break and finish writing your steps another day, and work on revising another day. This is meant to kind of continue the whole week and taking a break, so every time you come back to the writing, you feel refreshed and you're ready to go. So last week we brainstormed an idea that we wanted to write about. I decided I wanted to teach someone how to grow a plant. We wrote an introduction where we hooked the reader, we introduced the topic, and we listed all the materials that were needed. Today we're going to start writing the steps. Now, in order to write the steps correctly, they have to be in order. So if you're teaching someone how to do something, obviously the steps need to be in order for them to do it correctly. It's really helpful to have pictures to go with each step so the reader understands what they're supposed to do. And of course, including the transition words like first, then, next, last. Words like that are helpful when you're doing how-to writing for each step. Now here's some writing references. You should have seen this before when we've done our writing. When we've done story writing, we've actually used transition words a lot. We're not writing a story this time, however, so you need to make sure the words you choose make sense. So if you're using beginning transition words, things like first, once, to begin, those are the green ones. So that should be the first step that you are writing, to the first sentence in your steps. Now the next part is the middle, and you might have a couple sentences for this. So words like then, next, later, those are your yellow transition words. And finally, the ending transition words are like last, in the end, finally. The red ones are your final step in all your steps that you're writing for your how-to writing. Please use this if you are stuck and not sure what kind of word to choose. Of course, we have our grade 2 no excuse words, and we also have your success criteria checklist for writing your steps. So under ideas, we want to make sure you listed all the steps to complete the task. We want to create pictures to go with each step, and then under organization here, we want to make sure you have your green transition words for your beginning, yellow transition words for your middle, and your red transition words for your ending. Feel free to actually make these words those colors if you'd like, or underline them in a color so it stands out to you. And of course, when you're done writing, it's important that you read it so it makes sense. And with conventions, it's what we always have. We have capitals, punctuation, finger spaces, using your no excuse words when spelling them. And of course, your printing and typing should be neat, and others should be able to read it. Because if they can't read it, how are you going to be able to teach them how to do something? So when I thought about my first step, I wrote, first, you should fill your pot with soil. If I'm going to teach someone how to do a plant, that would probably be a good first step. And I used first as my beginning transition word, and I made it green. Step 2, next, put a few seeds into the soil. So this is part of my middle transition word for my next sentence, so I made it yellow, and I made a picture to go with it too. Step 3, then sprinkle some water into the pot. I'm still working the middle piece of writing, so I made then a yellow color because it's a yellow transition word. Step 4, this is my final step, so I made my transition word red. So last, put the pot in the sun and wait for the plant to grow. Once you finish doing all your steps, you should take a break, stop. You just did a lot of work writing out those steps. If you want, you can go back to the criteria checklist and check and make sure you did everything that checklist says. I would encourage you to stop the video here and do the next part later or another day, because the next part of our how-to writing will be how to revise our writing. So feel free to stop the video here and continue on once you feel ready. Hi boys and girls, so welcome back to How-To Writing. This is part 4, revising steps. So the last part of your writing, you should have actually written all the steps needed to complete the task that you want to teach someone to do. So for revising steps, this is where we're finding ways to improve our writing and making sure we're not missing any key details. So when you do revising, you want to reread your writing so it makes sense. Think about your writing. Think about, am I missing any details? Is there anything I need to add or change to improve it? And of course, you're making it better, because every author always has to go back to their writing and find ways to improve it. There is no writer in the world that finishes writing once and they're done. They always have to go back and find ways to improve. So before you actually start revising, I would like you to find somebody in your house and get them to follow your steps for your writing. Now, if you don't have the materials needed to do that, for example, if you're making a pizza and you don't have the ingredients, or you just don't want to cook right now, just have them pretend to do it. Make sure they do everything you wrote exactly. They are not allowed to add or change anything. And afterwards, talk to them. Were they able to complete the task? Were any steps missed? Were they confused at any point? Was there any missing details? So when I look at my writing on how to do a plant, I actually had my daughter follow the instructions, and I was able to see what parts I missed. So first, you should fill your pot with soil. That's the first thing I wrote. Then I realized she didn't know what to use to put the soil in the pot. She was using her hands, which I guess there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not a way to fill a pot with soil. So I changed my sentence to, first, you should use a small shovel to fill your pot with soil. That is much better. I added that detail, way more clear what you should do. So step 2, I wrote, next, put a few seeds into the soil. Now when my daughter did this, she just kind of took a handful of seeds and threw them in. That's not exactly what you want to do when you want to plant something. So I realized I needed to tell her some details. So I changed my sentence to, next, poke 3 or 4 holes in the soil and drop a seed into each hole. If you don't do that step, the seeds won't germinate properly and actually grow. If you just throw the seeds in there, well, they're going to get overcrowded and most likely not grow. Step 3, I wrote, then sprinkle some water into the pot. So she took that as, get water on her hands and sprinkle it over the pot. Well, that's not really an effective way to water your plant. And I also forgot to write about how you should cover the seeds with the soil. So I added these details. Then cover the seeds with soil and sprinkle some water into the pot with a watering can. There, more clear. She was able to follow the instructions way more clearly. Now my final step, I said last, put the pot in the sun and wait for the plant to grow. Well, we did this, and I realized I didn't say that you have to actually keep watering the plant when the soil gets dry. If you don't water the plant, then the plant is just going to basically die because it doesn't get the water it needs. So I changed it to, last, put the pot in the sun and wait for the plant to grow. Don't forget to add more water when the soil gets dry. By having someone follow my instructions, it really made it clear what details I was missing, and I was able to go back to my writing and find ways to improve it to make it more clear and easy to understand. So I'm really glad I did that step. That's why revising is really important. So when you're doing your revising, you can go back to your transition words, you can go back to your no excuse words, and I encourage you to use this checklist, because this checklist is very helpful in making sure you have everything you need. So once you're done, stop. Great job. Revising is a tricky thing to do, and I'm really proud that you've made it this far. I encourage you to read your writing to someone and see if they can follow the steps with the extra details you added. When you feel like your writing is completed, you can choose to write your steps on the computer and type it, or you can print out the sheet that I had posted and just print directly on that. If you don't want to print anything, you can just use a blank piece of paper or lined piece of paper and find a way to organize your steps with your introduction, and make sure you have a picture beside every single step, so that way it's very clear to the writer what they need to do. When you're finished, we ask you to upload your writing onto Google Classroom to your teacher, and make sure that you have your steps kind of together with your introduction, because when we're finished our writing, we want to have everything all together. Next week, we're going to talk about writing a closing paragraph, because we're not done. So if you've made it this far, you've done the steps and you've done the revising, great job. And of course, if you have any questions or concerns, please contact your teacher, and we would be happy. We're very excited to read these pieces of writing. I think this would be really neat to share in one of our Google Meets once we're all done in a few weeks. So have fun, and talk to you guys later. Bye.